Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Mystery Ghost Stories. You may remember last week I said I was starting up a new series, and here we are. A little bit of the same setup, without the theories, but we're going to get into some chilling ghost stories, and perhaps we'll get some answers, perhaps we won't. You'll definitely get my opinions at the end, though. So, if you may remember, our first episode for Mystery Ghost Stories tonight is the Queen Mary. The Queen Mary is a ship that is supposedly, and I say that with quotation marks, supposedly haunted, because there is some and definite opinions that go back and forth as to whether or not this place truly is haunted. It's supposedly, on one end, one of the most haunted places in America, and on the other end, people are just like, this isn't haunted, just hogwash. Well, whichever side you lean on at the end of the night, I hope I had something to do with it. So, without further ado, let us take a look into Mystery Ghost Stories, the Queen Mary. Let us first go into details about the history. The RMS Queen Mary is a retired British ocean liner that sailed primarily on the North Atlantic Ocean from 1936 to 1967 for the Cunard White Star Line and was built by John Brown and Company in Clydebank, Scotland. Queen Mary, along with RMS Queen Elizabeth, were built as part of Cunard's planned two-ship weekly express service between Southampton, Cherbourg, then Cherbourg, okay, and New York. Okay, so it's an express, and they had two liners. That was the idea, I suppose. The two ships were a British response to the express superliners built by German, Italian, and French companies in the late 1920s and 1930s. And before I go any further, let me just, for a quick moment, I sincerely apologize. I realized that if I'm going to keep looking down, my screen needs to not time out. So, we're back. Okay. All right. So, basically, it's an ocean liner. It served quite well, 1936 to 1967. That's fairly long for an ocean liner. Did its due justice and then some? Its port of registry was in Liverpool, where the Beatles came from. But all right, so it's an ocean liner, you know that. Basically, it's you don't we don't say that ships and ocean liners, we don't go by them by their mileage, but this thing probably had some good mileage to it. It's not an old beat up Chevy in your garage. This thing went places and it saw some things. All right. Before I get into the good stuff, the ghost stories, the reason you're all here, let me just give you the current status of the Queen Mary, which is actually kind of sad. In 2021, faced with a series of bankruptcies of leaseholders and failed developments, the city of Long Beach vowed to take over the ship and effectuate needed repairs. So unfortunately, the city of Long Beach was like, we're getting rid of the Queen Mary. And the city was like hell you are. That ship's haunted. That ship has history. By gone it, we're gonna put a stop to you. So I'm actually kind of glad they did that because, you know, the reason we're here, the hauntings of the Queen Mary. All right. So let us see here. I apologize. I had this all ready to go, and of course, it cancels out. All right. So I'm just going to scroll a bit till we get to the good stuff. Now, before I read this, there may be at some point you may hear me repeat myself. This is only because I'm taking my information from three different sources. Some of these sources may share information. Let us hope that is the only reason I repeat myself. But without further ado, let us get into the haunting of the Queen Mary. Following Queen Mary's permanent docking in California, claims were made that the ship was haunted. In 2008, Time magazine included the Queen Mary among its top 10 haunted places. One of the staterooms is alleged to be haunted by the spirit of a person supposedly murdered there. The Queen Mary Hotel promotes suite room B340, a former third-class cabin, as notoriously haunted. So one of the main things that you will hear me reference a lot about is going to be room B340, which is supposedly the most haunted spot on the Queen Mary. Obviously so, someone was murdered there. If there's going to be haunted, haunted people hanging around, that's probably a reason why. Queen Mary also operates a number of commercial tours that include haunted attraction experiences such as Dark Harbor, which operates during the Halloween season, the Haunted Encounters Tour, and Ghosts and Legends Tour, promoted as featuring terrifying original stories and characters based on the ship's well-known paranormal tales. So, right away, you kind of get the feeling that the people that run the ship, they kind of they want to make money off it. They kind of commercialized it. They kind of Hollywoodized it. Hollywoodized, look at that, I just made up a word. Um, they glorified it, which right away makes you think that what's the authenticity of the actual hauntings to this? Well, bear with me because perhaps after you hear some of the tales, you will be swayed in the other direction. But not without one more skeptic. Skeptical Inquirer Richard John, excuse me, the Skeptical Inquirer writer John Champion has criticized the haunted tours, calling them a cynical exploitation of the space, and noting that much effort is put into promoting the ship as a haunted attraction, while efforts to explain or preserve the factual history of the ship are somehow pushed to the wayside. Center for Inquiry fellow Joe Nichol attributes the Queen Mary's haunting legends to pareidolia, illusionary mental images triggered by subjective feelings and daydreaming states commonly experienced by workers, such as hotel staff doing repetitive chores. So, in other words, this guy is pretty much saying, not only is it BS, but he's saying that because the people that work on the ship continually do the same thing day in and day out, that they're more likely to experience stuff, feel things, see things, just because, if something's out of the ordinary, that's not something that they normally see, they're going to attribute it to being a spirit. Do I buy that? No. No. Dude, come on. I have the same repetitive days, but the minute something strange happens, I don't sit there and say, "Oh my God, it was a ghost," or "Oh my God, it's my paranoia." No, it's really not. And fun fact, pareidolia is, by definition, it's when people will tell you a whole bunch of stuff, knowing that it's fake, to try to persuade you into believing that it's true. So you can see where the guy was trying to go with it. All right. So I gave you a little bit, but let us dive a little deeper, shall we? All right. This next article is from Forbes, so you know it's credible, I think. The Queen Mary was once labeled as one of the 10 most haunted places on Earth. So the first thing said it was one of the 10 most haunted places. This one adds on Earth. Time magazine has launched its famously haunted stateroom B340 for overnight guests starting this month. The first time I ever visited the ship, I personally felt its ghostly vibe and was eager to explore areas previously not made available to visitors. So the guy that wrote this article, he actually put this day in B340. God help him. All right. Screams and violent noises were reported in the boiler room, where an 18-year-old sailor was severed in half by a heavy door where he was trapped. This poor guy cut right in half because of the door. I actually remember seeing that. I might have been watching one of the ghost hunting shows because I do remember that. Ah, it was the BuzzFeed Unsolved guys. They were actually standing in the very spot the man got severed. A young girl also haunts the ship as she plays a nightly game of hide and seek with the guests in the empty swimming pool. I actually heard about that part on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. And for me to say a young girl also haunts the ship as she plays a nightly game of hide and seek with the guests in the empty swimming pool, you don't really feel the chill. So I'm going to read it like Robert Stack, so maybe you'll better appreciate the line. A young girl also haunts the ship as she plays a nightly game of hide and seek with the guests in the empty swimming pool. You say? Probably more chilling, right? The ship's Queen Salon also contains many reports of paranormal activity with a woman in white, because there's always a woman in white in everything that's haunted, reported to be a first-class passenger, haha, residing there as she slides across the floor in a long gown, dancing to a silent orchestra. It is believed that many spirits attach themselves to antique furniture or personal items remaining on the ship. Hmm, look at that. The infamous B deck once contained the third-class cabins and is now used for guests of the Queen Mary Hotel. Long hallways of the shiny wood paneling and burgundy carpets eerily add to the paranormal feeling throughout the deck. With 314 staterooms and 13 suites, and the most famous of them all, Suite B340, which used to be three third-class staterooms and were converted into one large suite. So they converted them over the years. So we got screams, we got murders, we got one room that's particularly more haunted than any other place in the entire ship. Due to increased popular demand, with guests wanting to experience an overnight in Suite B340, they decided to open up for reservations at $499 per guest. Guests who stay in the room will be offered a ghostly package including a chest with a Ouija board for private seances, tarot cards, a crystal ball, and even ghost hunting equipment. So again, the bad part about this is the fact that the people that run the ship or are on it know full well that, like, yeah, it may or may not be haunted, but we're gonna milk it for everything it's worth. Again, not cool, but I get it. All right, and finally, last but not least, the third article of the hauntings of the Queen Mary. It was, of course, featured on Sci-Fi Channel's Ghost Hunters and the British TV series Most Haunted. Room B340 offers thrill seekers and scare enthusiasts the unique opportunity to spend the night in the angst of alleged paranormal activity at the Queen Mary. So before I continue, my first question, I'm just going to ask it to you viewers right now. Would you stay in room B340 on this ship? I don't know if I would. I mean, I've never even stayed on a ship, never mind a haunted room on a ship. So if you're like me, you have some thinking to do. Stateroom B340 has a large volume of recorded paranormal activity, with many stories of haunted encounters noted in the ship's logs. Look at that. That place, so many people have had alleged experiences in this room, they keep logs of it. I mean, if that doesn't show you right there. So that skeptic guy, that John Champion guy, go pound sand, buddy. Go stay in room B340. Then get back to us and tell me that it's not haunted. Jabroni. Reports date back to the final ocean voyage in 1967 and include complaints from guests staying in B340, claiming that someone was knocking on the door in the middle of the night. Nothing like a knocking at 3 a.m. when you know everyone's supposed to be asleep. Other complaints include bathroom lights turning on by themselves, the sink faucet turning on and off on its own, and unexplained bathroom doors shutting. Apparently the ghosts had to use the bathroom. Hmm. Some guests have reported the covers of their bed being pulled off while asleep and waking to see a dark figure standing at the foot of the bed. Yeah, so that's pretty creepy. That would freak me out, for sure. Without a doubt. So, there's a lot to go off here. Do I think the Queen Mary is haunted? Yeah, I definitely think. If not, obviously I think not only, I just don't think, it's not just B340. I don't know why I just didn't say that. Not only is it B340 haunted, but I definitely think that that door, that metal door that poor man was severed in half by, that's probably got some creepy chills and vibes to it. No doubt about that. What do you think? Would you stay on the Queen Mary? Would you stay in room B340? Do you think it's haunted? Has anything that I've said tonight swayed you in the direction from skeptic to believer? Well, I hope it has. Because if you're anything like me, you don't want to stay in B340. You wouldn't mind getting a tour of the ship, but I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be a part of the ship when it's kind of glorified. Like I'll go on the ship to experience something, but I'm not gonna buy the package just so that you can try to expect me to see something. To me, there's a difference between me actually seeing something and you giving me equipment, implying and hoping that I see something to add to your lore to sell more tickets for people on this ship. This has been the first episode of Mystery Ghost Stories. I do hope you enjoy it, and do stay tuned for the next week's episode as well as other episodes that'll be more profound and more chilling than just the Queen Mary. Again, this has been Mystery Ghost Stories, the Queen Mary. I'm your host, Justin the Infinite. Have a good night.